Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to build a toolkit for economics thinking. We're breaking down the core ideas from a major economics textbook to give you a really powerful new way of looking at the world around you.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the basic mindset of an economist. Then we'll dive into the world of individual choices with microeconomics, zoom out to the huge picture with macroeconomics, and then we'll wrap up by seeing how it all connects on the world stage. Let's jump in.
Okay, first things first. We have to get one thing straight. Economics is not just about money, stocks, and charts. At its heart, it's really the study of choice and how we all deal with the simple fact that we can't have everything we want.
Let me ask you this. To throw the perfect bounce pass in basketball, a physicist could sit down and calculate the exact angle, the speed, the spin, everything. But does a player like Steph Curry do any of that?
No way, you just pass the ball. And the textbook uses this fantastic analogy but make a really key point. Even if we aren't consciously doing the math in our heads, economic models are incredibly good at explaining our behavior. Why? Because we are all intuitively weighing costs and benefits all the time. And that right there brings us to what might be the single most important concept in all of economics: opportunity cost. Think of it as the ghost of the road not taken. Every single time you choose to do one thing, you are, by definition, giving up the chance to do something else.
You know that $5 coffee you bought this morning? Well, its true cost, its opportunity cost, wasn't just the $5. It was the next best thing you could have done with that money. Maybe you would have put it in savings or bought a snack later. This idea is literally everywhere, shaping every single choice we make, big and small.
All right, let's zoom in. Microeconomics is all about the individual building blocks of the economy. We're talking about you, me, the local pizza place, and giant tech companies. It's all about how households and firms interact in the marketplace.
So it's really helpful to picture the economy as this big, continuous dance between two main partners. On one side, you've got households. That's all of us. And on the other, you have firms, the businesses making stuff. And we're constantly interacting in two main places: the market where we buy goods and the market where we sell our labor.
And this slide right here, this maps out that entire dance. It's called the circular flow model. Just follow the arrows, it's super intuitive. We, households, sell our labor to firms, and in return, they pay us wages. Then, what do? We take that money and buy stuff, goods and services, from those very same firms. It's this constant, beautiful loop of money, labor, and goods. So simple, but so powerful.
Now, the type of dance floor or the market that you're on, well, that changes everything. At one extreme, you've got what's called perfect competition. Think tons of firms all selling the exact same thing. And at the complete other end of the spectrum, you have a monopoly, where just one single firm runs the whole show. And this slide just lays out the difference in power perfectly. A lone wheat farmer, they're what's called a price taker. They have zero power to change the going rate for wheat. But then you think about a company like Microsoft was for years with operating systems. That's a monopoly. They had incredible power to set their own prices. So the key takeaway is that the structure of the market is what determines who has the power.
Okay, time to pull the camera back, way back. We're going from looking at individual trees to seeing the entire forest. Macroeconomics is like getting a complete health report for a whole country's economy.
And you know how a doctor checks your vitals, your temperature, your blood pressure? Well, economists check three key numbers to see how an economy is doing. GDP, which is the total output, the inflation rate, which tells us how fast prices are going up, and of course, the unemployment rate.
To give you a sense of scale, the US GDP in a recent year was over $21 trillion. Just try to wrap your head around that. That's the total value of every single car, every haircut, every app, every cup of coffee produced in the entire country in 1 year. It's an absolutely staggering number.
Now let's talk about inflation, because when it gets out of control, it's just devastating. This chart here shows these insane periods of hyperinflation in Brazil and Russia. Prices were skyrocketing by hundreds, even thousands of % a year. It just completely cripples an economy, making money pretty much worthless overnight.
But here's the really wild part about inflation. It doesn't hit everyone the same way. It actually creates winners and losers. So if you're a saver, inflation is your worst enemy. It just eats away at the value of your hard-earned cash. But if you're a borrower with a fixed-rate loan, you can actually come out ahead because you get to repay your debt with money that's worth less than when you first borrowed.
And this graph, wow, for me, this is one of the most powerful illustrations of what inflation does over time. This line shows the real U.S. minimum wage, which means it's been adjusted for inflation. So even though the number on people's paychecks has gone up and up, its actual purchasing power peaked way back in the late 1960s and has fallen a lot since then.
All right, let's move into our final section and see how all of these pieces fit together on the global stage. Because in today's world, no economy is an island. They are all deeply interconnected through trade, through investment, and through ideas. And this massive, tangled web of interconnection, well, that's what we call globalization. It's been supercharged by things like cheaper transportation and instant communication, which have just made it easier and easier for countries to trade with each other.
And there is absolutely no better poster child for globalization than the smartphone in your pocket. I mean, just take the iPhone. It's designed in California. Some of its most critical parts, like that amazing screen, are actually made by a direct competitor, Samsung, in South Korea. And then the whole thing is put together in these enormous factories in China and India by a Taiwanese company. It is truly a product of the world.
And get this, it's not just physical stuff like phones crossing borders. We're talking trillions, with a T, of dollars zipping around the world every single day in currency markets. This chart kind of shows how it works. An investor can start with dollars, swap them for British pounds, and if the pound gets stronger, they swap back and make a profit, just from that tiny change in the exchange rate. It's a massive, high-stakes global game.
But here's something from the data that might actually surprise you. You'd probably think the US is the king of global trade, right? But it's actually way less reliant on trade than most other countries. Why is that? Well, because the US economy is so huge and diverse on its own. Whereas a smaller country like Belgium or South Korea has to trade with the world to sell what they make and get what they need.
And this all leads us to a really crucial question. The textbook is clear that while globalization creates a ton of value, those benefits are not spread evenly. It absolutely creates winners, but it also creates losers, and that raises some really tough questions about how we deal with the impact on workers and entire industries that get left behind.
And that's really where we land at the end of all this. The most important thing to take away today is that economics doesn't give you all the answers. Nobody has all the answers. What it does give you is an incredibly powerful toolkit, a new lens. It helps you see the hidden trade-offs, those invisible opportunity costs, and the complex choices that are shaping our world every single day. So the real question isn't what's the right answer. The real question is, what will you see differently now?